The 2025 crash has begun, and it's much worse than was first expected. The year is already a bloodbath for bike sales. With dealerships panicking, used bike prices tanking, and manufacturers scrambling to survive. But while it's already getting bad, we haven't even touched on the most catastrophic part of the crash yet. Remember when you had to beg, borrow, or worse, offer up your left kidney just to find a decent used bike during the pandemic? Yeah, those days are over. And it's not for the best. The motorcycle industry is going from sold out until next year to please take one off the lot. We'll throw in a free helmet and maybe our dignity. Sales are down across the board. It is common to see price cuts ranging from $3,000 to even $5,000. Some dealers are reporting 20 to 30% drops in new bike sales compared to last year. That's not a slowdown. That's a nosedive with flames shooting out the tailpipe. Even the big boys, Honda, Yamaha, Suzuki, are not immune either. You'd assume the most affordable entry-level bikes would be safe, right? Wrong. Even the classic models like the Ninja 400s, R3s, and MT7s are gathering dust like a group of seasoned riders at a vintage bike show reminiscing about the good old days. The bubble that built up during the pandemic years, it popped hard. Back then, everyone and their cousin decided they were going to finally learn to ride, which was great, until they realized motorcycles don't come with a rewind button or a cup holder. Now all those barely ridden bikes are flooding the used market, and new inventory is stacking up with absolutely nowhere to go. Dealerships are starting to freak out. They're offering wild incentives, begging for buyers, and dropping prices faster than a first-time rider drops their bike at a gas station. Some manufacturers are even cutting production, which is corporate for "we made way too many, and now no one wants them." And that's only where the problems start. Because it's not just that there's too many bikes, it's not enough buyers. And the ones who are still in the game, they're sitting back, waiting for prices to crash even harder so they can swoop in and grab deals like vultures, circling a Ducati Panigale with a cracked fairing. So if the dealerships are hurting, you know the used market's getting body slammed even harder. If you've been anywhere near Craigslist, Cycle Trader, or Facebook Marketplace lately, you've probably noticed the smell of desperation in the air. It smells like overpriced ZX6Rs and regret. People who paid pandemic-inflated prices for bikes in 2021 are now trying to offload them like they're radioactive. And spoiler alert, nobody's buying. The same clapped-out FZ09 with rainbow fairings and a bent clutch lever that was somehow listed at $8,000 last year. It's still there, now at $6,500, and still overpriced by about $2,000. The used market is absolutely flooded. Every guy who thought flipping bikes would be his new side hustle is now sitting on 3 non-running GSX-Rs, praying for a buyer who hasn't checked KBB. You've got listings with phrases like firm on price, slowly turning into OBO, then price drop, then please take this thing before my wife makes me sell my Xbox too. It's a straight-up garage sale out there, and this flood of used bikes is dragging prices down across the board. It means if you're trying to sell, you're going to have to accept that your precious lightly modded R6 with 27,000 miles and a dented tank just isn't worth $9,000 anymore. It's worth whatever someone with cash and low standards is willing to pay. Even the decent bikes, the ones that haven't been wheelied through every school zone, are taking a hit. Why would anyone pay top dollar for a used machine when dealerships are offering factory rebates and 0% APR just to get bikes off the floor? The whole system's upside down. It used to be hard to find a good used bike. Now it's hard to give one away, unless you're offering it as a package deal with your riding jacket, helmet, and crushed dreams of becoming a MotoGP star. You would think that the flood of cheap bikes means it's a golden age for new riders. Well, you better think again. If you thought that was the worst of it, buckle up. Because what's coming next is even more catastrophic, and new riders are disappearing faster than the market can crash. Rider training programs are seeing drops in attendance. MSF classes that used to be booked out months in advance are now half full in some areas. And it's not just anecdotal. DMVs and licensing authorities in a bunch of states are reporting a steady decline in new motorcycle endorsements being issued. For one, riding isn't as accessible as it used to be. The cost of entry has crept up. Not just the bike, but the gear, the insurance, the licensing process. For a 20-something trying to get started, it's a decent financial hit compared to just, buying a used Civic and calling it a day. Add in the fact that a lot of newer riders came into motorcycling during the pandemic, looking for a fun hobby or a way to get outside. Sure, some stuck around, but a lot didn't. Whether it was the first drop in a parking lot or realizing lane splitting isn't legal everywhere, many decided it just wasn't for them. The excitement wore off, and the bikes ended up back on the market with barely a few hundred miles on the clock. And then there's the cultural shift. We're in a time where car culture and motorcycle culture are competing with convenience tech. Uber, e-bikes, electric scooters. For a lot of younger folks, the motorcycle lifestyle just doesn't hold the same kind of appeal it used to. It's not a rebellion like it used to be anymore. It's a commitment now. That's not to say new riders aren't out there. They are, but they're fewer now, somewhat pickier, and overall more cautious. And the industry hasn't really adapted to meet them where they're at. Instead of making it easier to start, it's become more complicated. So yeah, there are bikes everywhere right now, but fewer hands are reaching for the keys. And if that trend keeps up, the riding community could start to feel a little emptier in the coming years. Forget price drops. Forget showroom silence. What's coming next could change what it means to ride in 2025. And no one, not even the Big Four, are walking away untouched. Suzuki kicked things off early by quietly bowing out of MotoGP in 2022. That was the canary in the coal mine. When a brand that just won a championship decides it's too expensive to play, you know they're cutting costs across the board. Since then, they've scaled back new model development and are leaning hard on older platforms like the SV650 and GSX-S lines. Solid bikes, sure, but nothing that's lighting forums on fire. Honda, normally the most consistent and calculated brand, has been weirdly quiet on the innovation front. The CBR 600RR is gone in most markets. The CB 650R is aging fast, and their EV concepts feel more like placeholders than actual plans. They're clearly hedging their bets, focusing on volume-friendly commuter bikes and adventure tourers, while delaying anything that looks like a financial risk. Yamaha has been holding it together better than most, with the MT lineup still doing decent numbers, but even they're walking a fine line. The R6 remains discontinued for the street, and newer models like the R7 feel like strategic compromises. Mid-performance, mid-price, just enough to keep riders interested without gambling on a full-blown supersport revival. Their success now depends on whether riders keep showing up for that sweet spot between budget and fun. Then there's Kawasaki, who seems to be caught between innovation and confusion. They launched hybrid and electric concepts, announced them with a bang, and then went almost radio silent. Meanwhile, they're refreshing older bikes like the ZX-6R instead of releasing something truly new. The Ninja 400 still sells, but everything above it is fighting a shrinking market, and Kawasaki knows it. All these brands and many more are reacting the same way. Freeze big investments, recycle reliable models, and hope the market rebounds. It's like they've all gone into survival mode, focused more on not losing than on winning. But here's the thing, motorcycling isn't about playing it safe. If this trend keeps up, we're headed for a world of copy-paste bikes that feel more like spreadsheets than machines built for thrill. Now it wouldn't be wrong to say that something so frustrating had been brewing up that it almost seemed illegal. Because let's be honest, motorcycles have been getting expensive. Not just the premium Euro stuff, everything. Whether you were trying to snag a beginner bike or upgrade to your dream machine, the cost of riding had started to feel less like a lifestyle and more like a luxury. 5 years ago, you could grab a brand new 650 class bike for well under $8,000. Now, that same class is creeping into $9,000 to $10,000 territory before taxes, fees, setup, and whatever documentation fee the dealership invents that day. Want a litter bike? Prepare to shell out $18,000 plus. And that's if you were not aiming for an R1 million or Fireblade SP level machine. And it was not just the bikes themselves. Insurance spiked, especially for younger riders or anyone with a performance machine. Gear cost more. Registration fees had gone up in a bunch of states, and good luck financing anything without a strong credit score and a decent down payment. Riding used to be the affordable thrill. Now it was inching closer to track day Porsche money if you weren't careful. And now this price wall is exactly what's pushing out a whole segment of potential riders, especially the younger crowd. College-age riders or folks in their early 20s, many of them simply can't justify the cost of entry anymore. The math just doesn't work. You need a license, a $6,000 to $9,000 bike, $1,000 in gear, a few $100s in insurance, and you're still not even riding yet. Even people who can afford it are hesitating. With the economy wobbling and inflation still in the air, dropping 10 grand on a toy, no matter how fun, isn't an easy sell. So bikes sit on showroom floors, sellers get desperate, and the cycle keeps turning. The worst part? Manufacturers haven't really adapted. Instead of making motorcycles more accessible, they've leaned harder into the premium game, hoping bigger margins will make up for fewer sales. But here's the truth. When motorcycles stop being attainable, they stop being relatable. And when that happens, the whole industry starts losing the next generation of riders before they ever get a chance to fall in love with two wheels. Now here's a twist. While it might look like the industry's burning down, some riders are actually seeing this crash as the best thing that's happened in years. The current crash is bad news for manufacturers, but for riders, it's opening some unexpected doors. Let's start with the used market. Yeah, it's a mess for sellers, but for buyers, it's an all-you-can-eat buffet. Good bikes are everywhere, and prices are finally coming back down to earth. Stuff that was wildly overpriced 2 years ago is now sitting at fair market value or lower. If you've been waiting to buy your first bike, upgrade to something bigger, or add another machine to the stable, this is your moment. You're not fighting over Facebook listings anymore. You're shopping with leverage, and that leverage doesn't stop at private sales. Dealerships are dealing harder than before. Incentives, rebates, 0% financing, free gear, discounted services, you name it. They're pulling out all the stops to get bikes out the door. That means smarter buyers can walk into a showroom and come out with a much better deal than they could have gotten even 6 months ago. And thankfully, the manufacturers are starting to get the hint. This industry has been long overdue for a reality check, and maybe this slowdown will force them to build more practical, affordable, and beginner-friendly bikes again, without stuffing them full of ride modes and TFTs no one asked for. When every brand is chasing tech for tech's sake, it's easy to forget that most people just want a reliable bike that makes them smile on the ride to work or through the twisties on the weekend. This market reset could also help bring the culture back to center. During the boom, we saw a wave of people getting into riding for the wrong reasons, chasing social media clout, trying to flip bikes, or just hopping on because it was trendy. Now, the people still showing up are the ones who actually love to ride. That's a win for the community. Sure, some parts of this crash are painful. If you're trying to sell or you bought high, yeah, it stings. But if you're patient, informed, and genuinely passionate about riding, this reset might be the perfect time to make your next move. And what if I told you, this isn't the middle of the 2025 motorcycle crash. It's just the beginning. The smoke's only starting to rise, and the full fallout hasn't even landed yet. The market is still shaking. Dealerships are still guessing, and no one really knows for sure whether this is a short-term slump, a long-term shift, or just the new baseline. So what does that mean for riders right now? And how do you navigate it without getting burned? First off, expect things to stay rocky for a while. The industry doesn't pivot quickly. Manufacturers are still sitting on inventory. Dealers are adjusting pricing strategies month to month, and the used market hasn't fully leveled out yet. But the good news? We're not heading into a total collapse. This is more like a market correction that was bound to happen after the pandemic boom. You're going to see more price drops, both from dealers and private sellers, especially as the summer inventory gets cleared out. If you're looking to buy, just don't rush, but do start looking at listings now. The deals are already creeping in, and by late summer, motivated sellers will be everywhere. This is prime time to get something you love at a price that won't make your wallet cry. If you're on the selling front, be realistic. Know that the market isn't going to match what you paid in 2021. That's the hard truth. But pricing competitively, showing solid maintenance records, and being flexible can still move your bike. Presentation matters more than ever now. Clean it, photo it well, And don't write a 5-paragraph essay in your listing about how rare your bone stock CBR 500R is. And if you already own a bike you love, this is the time to ride the hell out of it. Gas is still cheaper than therapy, and with fewer new riders on the road, your local twisties might just feel a little more open this season. This is also a great time to invest in training, track days, or small upgrades that make your current ride feel new again. You don't need to buy something new to fall back in love with riding. As for the industry, expect a few shakeups. Some dealerships may close, some brands might pull back, and others, especially niche players, could surprise us with creative solutions. Keep your eyes on companies like Royal Enfield, CF Moto, and smaller European brands that are more agile and might sneak in with affordable models while the Big Four are playing defense. Bottom line, if you're smart, patient, and passionate, you'll come out ahead. This crash isn't the end of anything. It's a reset. The hype cycle is over, but the soul of riding? Still very much alive. Motorcycling has always been about freedom, adaptability, and riding through whatever the road throws at you. So gear up, watch the signs, and don't be afraid to lean in. The best roads usually come after the storm. Do you think this motorcycle crash was bad? Wait till you see the next video revealing an even bigger disaster brewing in the bike world.